All right, everyone, strap in because we are diving headfirst into the world of software automation today.
Sounds exciting.
It really is. You know, we're talking about things like robots and AI and how we're all going to be working in the future, but not just the stuff you see in the news headlines.
Right, going deeper.
Exactly. We're going behind the scenes with this new report called The State of the Automation Professional 2024.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
It's put out by UiPath.
Okay.
And they surveyed almost 2,000 automation professionals and students from all over the world,
Wow.
giving us a pretty unique look into this world that's changing so quickly.
And what I find so interesting here is we get to kind of move beyond all the hype and really understand the human side of all of this automation stuff.
For sure.
What's it actually like to build these systems?
Exactly. Because let's be honest, when we think about automation, it's easy to just picture some tech genius in a hoodie coding away in their basement, right?
Right.
But is that really who's shaping the future of work?
Yeah, well, the report actually paints a slightly more nuanced picture, I would say.
Oh.
The typical automation developer, at least for now, is, yes, more likely to be a millennial male
Okay.
and often based somewhere in the Asia-Pacific region.
Okay, so maybe the basement thing wasn't that far off.
Right.
But still, not exactly the most diverse picture we're painting here.
Yeah, and that's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
The report also found a pretty significant gender gap.
Hmm.
Although it seems like that might be changing with, the next generation coming up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, right now only about 22% of working professionals in automation are women.
Okay.
But get this, amongst students who are interested in the field, that number jumps way up to 37%.
Whoa, that's a huge difference.
It is.
So it sounds like the future of automation is looking a lot more diverse.
Definitely.
And, dare I say it, a lot more interesting.
Absolutely.
But let's be honest, we can't talk about the future of work without talking about AI, right?
The elephant in the room.
It really is. It feels like every other day there's a new article about how AI is coming for our jobs.
Right, which is a whole other conversation.
Totally. But the report actually shows that AI is already having a major impact on how automation professionals are working.
Yeah, I was really interested in that part.
Get this, 90% of the people they surveyed said they're either already using AI in their work or they plan to within the year. 90%! That's insane! It's basically gone from being a nice-to-have on your resume to a must-have skill, hasn't it?
It really has.
But what are they actually using AI for? Like, what does that even look like?
So it's being used across a lot of different tasks, which makes sense.
Right.
But the report highlighted a few really key areas.
Okay, like what?
So writing code for one, which we all know is a pretty complex process.
Absolutely.
And now AI can assist with that.
Wow.
Another big one is creating documentation.
Documentation.
Yeah, which, let's be honest, not the most glamorous part of the job,
Definitely not something most people enjoy doing.
but it's absolutely crucial in any sort of technical field.
Oh, tell me about it. Getting stuck with poorly written documentation is the worst. So is AI basically like having a superpowered assistant to handle all the tedious stuff?
That's a great way to put it. Essentially, yes. And actually, the report also found that AI is being used a lot for testing automation,
Oh, interesting.
which again is really important for ensuring quality and making sure everything's running smoothly.
Right. So it's not just about making things easier for the automation professionals themselves. It's about improving the whole process.
Exactly.
Okay, so maybe AI in automation isn't about robots stealing our jobs. It's about robots doing the boring parts of our jobs for us.
Yeah, I like that way of looking at it.
Sign me up.
Right. Although it's not all, smooth sailing. The report also talks about some of the frustrations that automation professionals come up against in their day-to-day work.
All right, let's dish the dirt. What's causing them headaches? All right, let's dish the dirt. What's causing them headaches?
Well, there were three main things that kept coming up
Okay.
as major pain points,
Yeah, hit me with it.
Incomplete documentation.
Yeah, of course.
Too many variations in the processes that they're actually trying to automate.
Great, because every company does things differently.
Exactly. And then the third one was, just straight up difficulty collaborating with those business teams.
See, those all sound like pretty universal work struggles, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
I've definitely battled my fair share of confusing documentation and communication breakdowns. And I don't even work with robots yet. Anyway,
Yeah.
but it's interesting, right? Because it kind of highlights how even in this field that seems so futuristic, like we're talking about automation,
Yeah.
the success of these technologies really still hinges on very human factors.
It all comes back to that,
Of
doesn't
course.
it?
Like, we need clear communication. We need well-defined processes.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can have the fanciest robot in the world,
Mm-hmm.
but if you don't know what you're asking it to do,
Exactly.
it's not going to be very helpful.
It's not magic, right? You have to be able to explain it.
Right.
So, okay, we've talked about the robots. We've talked about the AI. We've even talked about some of the frustrations.
It's covered a lot of ground.
We have, but what about the job satisfaction?
The big question.
Right. Is a career in automation all it's cracked up to be?
Well, according to this report, it actually seems like a pretty sweet gig.
Really?
Yeah, automation professionals reported really, really high levels of job satisfaction,
Interesting.
especially compared to other fields, which I thought was really interesting.
So not only are they, like, shaping the future of work,
Mhm.
they're actually enjoying it, too.
They are. Yeah, and I think that says a lot about the field.
For sure. Maybe those AI assistants really are doing their job.
Right. Taking care of all the boring stuff.
Exactly. But, okay, there's always a but, isn't there?
There always is.
What's the catch here?
So while job satisfaction is high, the report also found that a lot of these automation professionals are open to switching jobs.
Okay.
But, and this is important, within the field.
So it's less about being unhappy and more about opportunity knocking. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not that they're like, get me out of here.
I hate this.
It's more like, ooh, there's something else cool over there. Let me go check it out.
Makes sense.
And I think that speaks to how in demand their skills are.
Oh, for sure.
They can afford to be a little bit picky.
Yeah, if you've got it, flaunt it. Right.
Exactly.
But it makes sense, right? Because the field is changing so quickly, there are always new things to learn, new challenges to tackle.
Constantly evolving.
Which, speaking of, we can't really talk about automation without talking about UiPath, can we?
True. They're kind of the,
The big dogs.
yeah, the big players in this world.
And they're the ones behind the report that we've been dissecting this whole time.
That's right. And while this isn't meant to be like a UiPath commercial or anything,
Right, we're not trying to sell you anything.
the report does give us some really interesting insights into how these professionals out there, how they're actually using UiPath, what they think of it.
Okay, so spill the tea.
Right, so what are people saying?
Yeah, give me the gossip.
Well, one of the biggest takeaways, I think, is just how user-friendly it is.
Really?
Yeah, even professionals who have been in the field for a while, who've used other tools, they say UiPath is surprisingly easy to pick up,
Interesting.
which is a big deal because this is already a pretty complex field, as we've talked about.
Totally. You don't want to add any extra layers of difficulty on top of it.
Right, and that ease of use, I think, is a big part of why it's so popular.
So it's like the iPhone of automation software. Simple enough for beginners, but powerful enough for the pros.
I think that's a great analogy.
Right. Like, my grandma could probably figure out UiPath.
Maybe.
Okay, maybe not. But you get the idea.
I get it. It's accessible.
Exactly. It's accessible. And another thing that really stuck out to me was the strength of the UiPath community. Wait, hold up. There's a whole community dedicated to automation.
There is, yeah. It's kind of amazing.
Like, what is that? Is it like a support group, but for robots and code? It's more like a global network, I guess you could say. Like,
Yeah.
they have experts, enthusiasts, people who are really into this stuff.
Yeah.
And they're all sharing their knowledge and resources, all related to UiPath and, just the whole world of automation.
And it sounds like from the report that this community is actually really important for a lot of people in the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, especially when it comes to, like, if they're stuck on a problem,
Makes sense.
they can go to the community and be like, hey, has anyone else run into this?
Mm-hmm.
Or how did you solve this?
It's like having a direct line to thousands of other people who actually get it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's huge for problem solving and then also just for keeping up with everything that's going on.
Right, because things are changing so fast.
Constantly. So the community helps people stay up to date.
Right, you don't want to be the last one to the party when the robots finally take over.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today.
We really have.
We've met the people behind the scenes, the automation generation. We've faced our fears about the AI revolution.
We went there.
We really did. We explored the highs and lows of what it actually looks like to work in this field.
The real deal.
And we even uncovered this secret society of automation enthusiasts.
Yay, they're not so secret. They want you to join.
That's right. The more the merrier.
Exactly.
But really, I think this report has been super eye-opening.
Mm.
And I kind of want to bring it back to our listener for a second, because if someone is listening to us right now and they're thinking, okay, this actually sounds kind of cool, I want to get in on this whole automation thing.
Yeah.
Where would they even start?
That's a great question. And, the report actually offers a really good starting point.
Oh, does it?
It does. So we've talked about UiPath a bunch, obviously,
Right.
and they have this thing called the UiPath Academy.
Okay.
And it's amazing.
What is it?
It's basically a bunch of free online courses all about automation.
Wait, free?
Free!
As in learn at your own pace, $0, no strings attached, free.
That's the one. It's an incredible resource, honestly.
Wow.
For anyone who's curious, like, it doesn't matter what your background is.
You don't have to be a coder in a basement.
Nope, you can be anyone. And they have courses for every level.
Oh, wow.
From total beginners who are like, what even is automation?
Right. Do robots dream of electric sheep?
Exactly. All the way up to, like, seasoned professionals who are just looking to learn the latest and greatest.
So not only is this world of automation sounding cooler by the minute,
Right.
but there are actually, like, accessible ways to get involved.
Absolutely. That's what I love about it.
No more excuses, people.
I love it. I love it.
Honestly, I think this deep dive has totally flipped the script for me.
How so?
Well, we started off talking about how robots are coming for our jobs, right?
Right. The classic.
But now I'm sitting here thinking, maybe they're not. Maybe they're here to make our work lives better.
I think there's definitely a case to be made for that.
Right. Like, instead of being afraid of the robots, maybe we should be figuring out how to work with them.
100%. And I think that that's the power of having these conversations, right?
Totally.
Of going beyond just the headlines and the fear-mongering.
Right, because it's easy to get caught up in that.
It is, but when you actually take the time to, understand the technology,
Yeah.
and more importantly, the people behind it,
Right.
that's when things start to get really interesting.
Couldn't agree more. So I think the takeaway for our listeners today is this. Next time you see a headline about robots or AI,
Yeah.
don't just keep scrolling.
Don't just freak out.
Exactly. Take a second to actually, like, click on the article, read it, do a little bit of your own research.
Think critically.
Right, and ask yourself, what's the human story behind this technology?
Because chances are it's a lot more complex than you think.
And a lot more interesting.
Way more interesting.
And hey, you might even learn something new along the way.
Now, wouldn't that be something?
It would. It really would. All right, everyone. That is it for today's deep dive into the world of software automation.
It was a good one.
It was. It was. Until next time, happy automating, everybody.